1971 to 1974. Strat-O-Matic Excel Carryover League. Brought to you by the Shrimp Trawler.
Game 414, Reds at Cubs.
Welcome back, baseball fans. 1971-74 Carryover League, and we have a big series today for you from the National League North between the Cincinnati Reds, your defending world champions, against the Chicago Cubs in what is, I consider, the best division in baseball. These two teams, plus the Pirates and the Cardinals, most competitive, most complete rosters. And this is a perfect example of how great this division is, even though the one-loss records aren't there. And why not? Well, they keep beating each other up. The Cincinnati Reds, we just have to go right into this thing, folks. I can't go to the standings quite yet. We're going to go right to Game 1. And you're going to see something amazing happen here, folks. The Cubs at Cincinnati, Game 1. Rick Russell versus Gary Nolan. Top of the second inning, Hall of Famer Billy Williams, solo home run. Then in the sixth inning, after a walk, Jim Hickman, write that name down in pen on a piece of paper. Jim Hickman with a 2-run homer, 3-0 Cubs on the road in newly opened Riverfront Stadium. Do the Reds, the defending champions, have an answer? You're darn tootin' they do. You have a single by Hopkins after 2 outs. It is Lee May with a 2-run home run. If you're wondering how Hopkins got that single, it was off of the shortstop's glove. It wasn't Kessinger. They had Santo over there at shortstop today that put Bill Madlock at third base, experimenting with that. Interesting experiment. Been working so far, not in that moment. Bottom of the 7th, an error by Russell, and then a triple by Jim Stewart. And then Bobby Tolan with a single. Your Reds take a 4-3 lead. 8 innings in the book for Gary Nolan. 6 hits and 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks. In comes Clay Carroll, who had a 2-year scoreless streak in the regular season before the All-Star break. But this year he's been getting knocked around. And in this game, he gets knocked around some more. Kessinger comes off the bench with a single. Santo single. Hundley single. Madlock single. Becker 2-run single. 5 hits, 3 runs to the 9th off the Red closer. Your Chicago Cubs get themselves a road win. 6-4 victory for the Cubs. And surely you're thinking this is a blip on the radar. The Cubs just got lucky, or the Reds got unlucky, or whatever you want to say. Let's go to Game 2. No. These Chicago Cubs have figured something out suddenly, and they've got a tough determination. Game 2, it's Fergie Jenkins versus Don Gullett. My goodness, folks. Bottom of the 1st. Tony Perez gets a triple and scores on a Lee May sac fly. 1-zip. It stays that way until the 6th inning when Billy Williams homers. Tie the game at 1. Jim Hickman, write that name down, folks. He gets a double, and he would score on a Del Unser single. It's 2-1 Cubs. In the 8th inning, Jim Hickman, solo shot, 3-1 Cubs. And now, Fergie Jenkins, 20-game winner. How many years in a row did he win 20 games? Was it 6 years in a row? I can't remember. Something like that. Anyway, boy, we really need Fergie to go 9 today. He does. Bottom of the 9th inning, Lee May homers to make it 3-2. Bench singles, but he gets Concepcion. He strikes Concepcion out to end the game. A win, and a tough win. A hard-fought battle for the Cubs to beat the Reds 3-2, taking 2 straight in Riverfront Stadium. So this is not a fluke at all. This is a determined Cubs team, and you're starting to see the World Series hangover of the Cincinnati Reds Remember, they went to the 70 World Series and the 72 World Series, but in 1971, they weren't that good. Game 3, we go to Wrigley Field. Oh boy, folks, what a classic this thing turned out to be. Steve Busby, the American League import to replace Dick Bosman, who the Reds were looking for a guy to pitch on 3 days rest. And last year was Bosman, this year it's Steve Busby versus Bert Hooton. And in this one, the Reds have tweaked their lineup considerably, moving guys around, trying to come up with a new formula. You know, what's the new Coke for Cincinnati? They got to figure something out. Well, they did. The Reds get a ton of runs here, but so do the Cubs. Pete Rose in the leadoff spot. He walks and scores in the first, RBI double in the third. You get Tolan gets an RBI and a stolen base. Lee May scores on a walk. You get a Johnny Bench triple. You get homers by Concepcion, a homer by Gale Hopkins. You get 8 runs. The Cubs, off of Busby, they would get a 2-run homer off of Jim Hickman. Write that name down. And Del Unser. It's an 8-5 game, so it's reasonable. Both pitchers, winds blowing out in Wrigley Field. But then suddenly, Bert Hooton settles down. The wind dies down. A cold front comes in and the wind goes away. And Hooton, in the 4th inning, he almost hit his point of weakness here. But in the 4th inning after a single, he gets 3 outs. 3 up and 3 down, 3 up and 3 down, 3 up and 3 down. The first 2 batters out there and they pull him. So after 8 runs, Bert Hooton calms down, finds his inner self, and retires 14 in a row. And Ray Newman comes in and gets this thing into extra innings. So how did the Cubs come back 8-5? You're probably wondering. Busby pulled after 5 innings because they don't need him to pitch deep into games. They just need him to pitch on 3 days rest. So he got through 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, and they said, get him out of here. Let's go Pedro Borbon. Long reliever, relief 4. Let's go Pedro Borbon in the 6th inning with an 8-5 lead. Kessinger leads off with a single. Johnny Briggs walks, but then Glenn Becker hits to a 4-6-3 double play, and you're thinking this rally's over. Nope. Billy Williams walks, and then Jim Hickman. Write that name down. With 2 outs in the 6th inning, 3-run homer. We're tied at 8. Borbon does pitch 4 innings of relief. The game, he pitches through to the 9th inning. Bourbon's line, the 3-run homer and 3 walks in 4 frames. But in the bottom of the 11th inning, after a strikeout to Glenn Beckert, it is Billy Williams, solo shot off the lefty, Strickland, ball game, Cubs win, Cubs win, Cubs win, they win 3. Cubs win 3 games to 0. They win this one 9-8. And now the Reds are finally, they have to look at their cards and realize, you know what, we're just not the big red machine. You know, Pete Rose, his batting average is better, but his base stealing prowess is deteriorating. His power's gone. His ability to draw walks, not so much. Bobby Tolan's batting average drops. Lee May is still potent. Johnny Bench, he's not as good as 1970. How could he be? But he's still an MVP and a 24-year-old one at that in 1972. Tony Perez is 71 years, not that great. This team needs reinforcements to continue the Big Red Machine. They need Joe Morgan. They could use George Foster. They could use a Ken Griffey. They could use maybe a Jack Billingham, maybe a Clay Kirby. I don't know. But the Reds need something. And the Cubs got them where they want them. 3 games to 0. This Cub team coming off the mat. Let's take a look at the standings now. In this wild, I'm not going to call it wild and crazy. It's not crazy, it's talent, folks. And here we are. So the Reds are 12-14. They played in the League Championship Series a year ago against the New York Mets. Mets are 10-12. You're just seeing that the rest of the league is catching up and making all these series close. Pirates a game under 500, and there are your Cubs at 500 after winning 3 straight. Can they keep it going? The Cardinals, they're watching all of this from a distance and rejoicing. They're only 4 games over 500, but the Cardinals have beat the Pirates and the Reds 4 games to 3 in best of 7 series. They lost to the Cubs 4 games to 3. So the Cubs, in a weird, they have a tiebreaker over the Cardinals, and the Cubs will probably have a tiebreaker over the Reds, unless the Reds can rip off 4 straight wins. What a fun series, as you're seeing the Reds really have to deal with adversity. And can they rebound? They certainly can. I certainly believe that the Reds are capable of coming back and getting, 2, 3, maybe 4 wins in this series. They can do it, and we've known the Cubs to fail in the past. It's early 69 for the Cubs, or 1984, something like that. But the Reds have got to flip a switch here, or a chance of a repeat. We never thought a playoff appearance was in jeopardy. But a playoff appearance is suddenly in jeopardy for the Cincinnati Reds today in Game 4. It's Ross Grimsley. 10-7 with a 358 and 161 innings for the Reds in 1971. And for your Cubs, an interesting offseason acquisition, Earl Stevenson. A left-handed pitcher. The Cubs did not have a lot of lefties in their system at this time. So they went out and they acquired this guy. They eventually traded for Jeff Zahn, Doug Capilla, guys like that. Not a lot of great lefties in the Cubs system. Earl Stevenson, 3-5 with a 3.26 ERA in 80 innings. A battle of questionable lefties. Grimsley a starter 6. Stevenson a starter 7. Both teams have tweaked their lineups accordingly against left-handed pitching. And the Cubs, this is a sellout, folks. This is a big news story here. The Cubs trying to sweep the Big Red Machine. Sold out Wrigley Field. Blustery day. Let's get started. Bobby Tolan leads off. 46 off of Stevenson's a base hit. Rose is actually going to hit and run against a lefty. And he moves the runner to second base. Tony Perez. 49 is a walk. First and second for Johnny Bench. 2-7 for Bench is a base hit to left field. Tolan most certainly will run. He's a 16 out of 17 against the Zero Armor Williams, and he scores. Tony Perez holds a second. First and second with 1 out and a 1-0 lead. Here is Lee May. 68 pops to first. And with 2 outs, it's Concepcion. 1-6 is a base hit to right field. Perez. 11, 12, 13. He can't run against Hickman. He's can only run on a 14. Third base coach made him jam on the brakes to his dismay. So with the bases loaded and 2 outs, it's going to be Ken Suarez. 56 is a strikeout. And it's 1-0. Kessinger. They don't run out of innings early. We're going to amend the rule on the running on 13-14 to say for the last 3 innings, if you can tie or take the lead, you can run on 12 or 13. But early in games, this has been my standard to not run and run out of innings. I look at it as the third base coach being conservative. That's why the runner held up there. Don Kessinger leads off for the Cubs. There's his guard. Kessinger, 57, is a pop to second base. And batting second, it'll be Carmen Funzone. 49 off Grimsley, skies to center field. And with 2 outs, it's Glenn Becker. 65 off the Grimsley card. Homer 1 of 13 double. It's a 2-base hit. And Billy Williams. 64 is a bouncer to short X. You got Concepcion. It's a 2E21. It's short, and he makes the play. Another thing about these Cubs is they found their lineup and they found their mojo, and they're leaving things alone, which is fantastic for a team who struggles in the beginning looking for a lineup. They're settled into a lineup. They have Kessinger in a platoon with Madlock for playing time. Fanzone in a platoon with Briggs, Hundley, and May, the two catchers. Meanwhile, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the same guys every day. Beckert, Williams, Hickman, Mincher, Santo, and Unser. So they've settled in that order. And that has been the key to the Cubs. I find that if you're able to do that, certain teams, they settle in one lineup all year long and do great. Other teams change it almost every day and find success. And the Cubs are one of those, let's just stick with one lineup all year kind of teams. John Vukovic, 57, is a bouncer to short. And this is Kessinger today, of course, a 2E28. He makes the play. Tommy Helms, 1-8, flies left. And Bobby Tolan, 2-9, rolls to first. Stays 1-zip. Jim Hickman, the fans are going nuts here. They give him a standing ovation in his first plate appearance. 58, lines to third. Don Mincher, 1-4, flies to right. And Ron Santo, 2-12, bounces to third. Top of the third inning, it's Pete Rose. 1-7 for your 73 MVPs, a base hit. Tony Perez, 1-5. Let's take a look at a card. It's Tony Perez, 1971. Had 25 homers and hit .269. Those numbers are okay. Unfortunately, not as good as 1970. And he probably has better years coming in 73 or 4. So they got to upgrade this card at the end of the season. Remember, 71, like I said, it wasn't a great year for the Reds. But 1-5 is certainly good enough for Tony Perez here. That's a 2-run bomb, and the Reds grab a 3-0 lead. Johnny Bench, 1-3, bounce to third. Also, Bench is playing right field today. Give his legs a break, something the Reds were able to do to keep him in the lineup. Put him in third base, first base, in the outfield. He's in right field today. Ken Suarez is catching. Lee May, 1-7 is a K. And with 2 outs, Concepcion, 2-8, is a double to left field. And here's Ken Suarez, 46, base hit to left field. Concepcion, he will run, 16, 17, and 18, 0 arm, and he scores. John Vukovic, 2-8, single 1 to 10, lines out on 12. The Reds, they seem to have gotten their offense going. They did score 8 runs in Game 3, and they got 4 already in Game 4. It's up to the pitching staff to hold on to this. They've had the lead in all 4 games now, the Reds have. Cubs have come back and won the first 3. Very impressive. Bottom of the third, it's Del Unser. 2-7 is a K. Jerry May, 1-11. Where's Jerry May's card? There it is. Dropped it on the ground. Sorry about that. Jerry May, 1-11. Flies to right B plus an injury. Well, interesting. Well, I could just put Randy Hundley, better defensive catcher, in there for him. And with 2 outs, it's Kessinger. 1-7 pops to first. Ross Grimsley, best start yet for a Reds pitcher in this series. Into the 4th, it's Tommy Helms. 58, left. Bobby Tolan of the Bells, 1-7 is a K. And Pete Rose, 65, center. Availability, Bourbone's not available. He went 4 innings in the previous game. He's not available. All the other pitchers are out of the bullpens. Bottom of the 4th, Carmen Fanzone, 4-10, right. Glenn Beckert, 56, pops to first. Billy Williams, 1-7. Let's take a look at Billy Williams' card. The 72 Billy Williams. We had his 70 card in a year ago where he hits 42 home runs and it's .339. Well, this one, in 72, 2 years later, he's hitting 37 home runs, hitting .333. Had the walk-off homer in Game 3. 1-7, triple 1 to 6. That's a base hit. And with 2 outs, they're on their feet. Every time this guy comes up now, Reds killer, Jim Hickman. 68 off Grimsley is a K. Top of the 5th. Tony Perez. 48. Single one of 12. Lines out on a 14. Johnny Bench, 510, catcher's card. Your catcher, the new catcher, Hundley, is a 2E3. He makes the play. And Lee May, 47, base hit. 2 outs, Concepcion. 2-9. Let's look at Dave Concepcion's card. He had a nice year with this 73 card. From 70 to 72, his range and his bat were kind of questionable. Finally puts it together in 73. A 2 defensive player and a 287 hitter. And against lefties, plenty of power and extra base hits. 2-9. Triple 1 of 16, double the rest. That's a triple. 5-0 Reds. Answering the bell here in Game 4. Ken Suarez, 2-9, pops to short. 5-0 Reds. Bottom of the 5th. Let's pause a moment for station identification.
This is the Shrimp Trawler video channel.
Este es el canal de videos de camaroneros.
All right, bottom of the 5th. It'll be Don Mincher. 38 is a K. Ron Santo, 37's a walk. Del Unser, 6'11". Pitcher X, Grimsley. E0. Oh, this is going to leave a mark. Oh, but he gets a single off the E0 pitcher. That should have been a double play, like 80% of the time. But he rolls a single off the 2 rating of all pitchers. And my goodness, that's the break the Cubs needed. Down 5. So you have first and second with 1 out, and Randy Hundley in there for the injured Jerry May. 6-11 off Grimsley's card is first X. You have Lee May at first, a 3E9. First base, not an error. It is a GBA. Oh boy. And that'll end the inning. Tough break for the Cubs after they got a gift. Nice fielding gem by Lee May. Decent first baseman. Top of the 6th, 5-0 Reds. They seem to have righted their ship slightly. John Vukovic, 63, second X. Beckert's a 2, makes the play. Tommy Helms, 2-7, pops the 3rd. Tolan of the Bells, 4-10, center X. 2E5 in center as Del Unser makes the play. Do the Reds have any more defense to bring in? Let's get Geronimo in the game. You know what? Let's get Geronimo in there, and you know, we could get Johnny the rest of the afternoon off. Yeah, let's give him a break. Johnny Bench will take the rest of the afternoon off. A 5-0 lead. Now they got their defense in there. As Grimsley's a starter 6. All the great defenses in there. Bottom of the 6th inning. Back up top, it'll be Don Kessinger. 2-5, pops out. Carmen Funzone, 2-10, strikes out. Glenn Beckert, 33, pops to third base. Excellent start by Grimsley. This is what the Reds have been missing. 3 hits shutout through 6 innings. All right, Stevenson in the 7th. His breaking inning. Pete Rose, 38, bounced to third. Tony Perez, 39, bounced to short. And Geronimo, left-hander, 49, is single 1 of 19. He gets the single. And with 2 outs, it's Lee May. I think we've seen enough of the lefty with righties, Megan Concepcion coming up. So after 6 2/3, we'll take Stevenson out. Just didn't have it today. Got victimized by the Reds. And we're going to go to Ray Burris. In the 7th inning, Ray Burris for the Cubs in 73. Got a 2.91 ERA in 65 innings. Wants to limit any more damage as they still feel they can try to get a sweep in the last 3 innings. Ray Burris comes on in to face Lee May. And the pitch to Lee May. 2-9 is a base hit to right field. And the dangerous Concepcion, you saw his card earlier, triple last time up. He needs a homer for the cycle, folks. A single, double, and triple for Concepcion having a big year. 110 is a fly ball left. 210 is the cycle. That's how close that was. Bottom of the 7th. Stretch time here at Wrigley Field. We've been enjoying Syl Johnson's complete mythology discography. 73 songs, about 3 hours of Syl Johnson. My goodness, folks, this is a long player. And he could play all through the night here. A legend. Syl Johnson, back to the game. Bottom of the 7th inning. Take Me Out to the Ball Game has been sung, and Cubs down 5. Sweep of 4 games is in doubt, but they're going to try. Grimsley, 3 batters will break him, and leading off will be Billy Williams. 5-10, catcher's card. Now you got Suarez catching. It's a 2-6. He makes the play. Johnny's back up. A guy who hits a little bit better than Bill Plummer. Jim Hickman, 1-4, fly ball to left, and Hickman is suddenly 0 for 3. And oh boy, I hope that doesn't hurt the Cubs moving forward. Don Mincher, 6-11. Pitcher X, Grimsley is an E0. He made a mistake last time, not this time. 7 shutout innings, Ross Grimsley, easily the high point of his season. 5-0 into the 8th inning we go. Ken Suarez, 47, is a single. John Vukovic, 2 7s a K. Tommy Helms, 1-7, single 1 5, lines out on to 6. And Bobby Tolan, 37, was a walk. 2 on, 2 outs by a Rose of any other name. We're going to pull Mr. Burris here. We'll get Ray Newman in here, as Pete Rose is better against righties in this particular card. With 2 on and 2 outs, last effort to save this game, keep it close, Ray Newman comes out of the Cub bullpen. He was 1-2 with a 3.55 ERA and 38 innings for the Cubs in 71. He will face Pete Edward Rose. Pitch. 1-5. Let's take a look at the Rose card. You can see, well, that's a home run against a righty. As you see, that's where the damage is against righties. Homer 111, double the rest. But against the lefty, he doesn't have a home run on his card, but he still does plenty of damage. 1-5, triple, 1-10, double. That is a 2-base hit. That will score Suarez. Tolan rounding third. They'll send him. And he scores. It's a 2-run double with 2 outs by Pete Rose, pumping his fist to second base. And the Cubs fans are starting to file for the exits here. Doesn't look like a sweep is in the cards here. Tony Perez, 1-4, flies to left field. 7-0 now. Grimsley, he wants to go for a complete game. Ron Santo, 1-10, short. Del Unser, 2-9, Ks. And Randy Hundley, 3-10, flies to left field. Newman continues into the 9th, just to give the bullpen some work. Geronimo, 46, is a K. Lee May, 43. Left X, Billy Williams out there is a 3E4. He makes the catch. Concepcion, 1-4, flies to left. Bottom of the 9th now, 7-0. Can Grimsley finish it? This would be a 3-hitter for Ross Grimsley. It'll be the top of the lineup. All the red defense is in there. Don Kessinger leads it off. 67 off Grimsley is second X. You got Tommy Helms. A 1E10 at second base. That's an out. The Carmen Fun Zone. 1-7. Let's take a look. There is the Carmen Fun Zone. Nice little card for him in 73. 273 average. 1-7, double 111, and the Cubs get their 4th hit. Stays out of a double play as well. Glenn Beckert, 4-11, right X. Remember, we took out bench, so we have Tolan moving over from center to right is a 2E4, a 2E4, and it's a single ... and there goes your shutout. Tough break for Grimsley. He toes the dirt in disgust, and he will leave the game after 8 1/3. Ross Grimsley leaves with a 7-1 lead. And let's go to Wayne Granger. Don't need to get a Carroll a closer. Granger could use some work. He'll come on in the 9th, try and get the final 2 outs. It's Billy Williams. with Beckert at first and 1 out. The pitch to Billy Williams. 49, center field. And with 2 outs, it is Jim Hickman. 3-8, he'll continue the game. Base hit to right field, and you have 2 on for the dangerous Don Mincher. 49, again for the lefty like it was with Williams. Flies to center field. Well, the Cubs got to avoid the shutout, get a run in the 9th inning. We can't say same old Cubs, though, because, they've ripped off 3 straight wins, and the Reds are the Reds. And you knew they were going to have a counterpunch. They get a road win in Game 4 with Ross Grimsley. Final score is 7-1. We'll do the box and find out some more information on these teams when we look at the stats. Newman gave up a hit and a K. Burris gave up a hit, 2 runs, a walk, and a K. And another hit in that inning too to Lee May. Stevenson takes the loss. 10 hits, 5 runs. Everything earned. A walk, 3 strikeouts. Granger finishes the game. Give up a single. Grimsley gets the win. 5 hits, a run in the 9th, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. Excellent work for Grimsley. 1009 0109 71316 71316 2515. Game 5 is also sold out in Wrigley. They still have a chance to put a dent in the Reds' season at home. They want to see them knock the Reds out in Game 5 at home after blowing the opportunity here in Game 4. If the Reds can win Game 5, they'd reclaim home field, heading back to Riverfront. All right, so both teams now are 13 wins and 14 losses. Interesting. The Pirates are 14 wins and 15 losses. It's a 3-way tie, folks. That's what I'm saying. The Cubs and Cardinals have shaved the margins between the Reds and Pirates, the 2 teams with better rosters. The Reds now are hitting .244 with a .373 ERA. Gullett's 3-4. That's just not going to play. Gary Nolan's pitching well, as he does. Clay Carroll's 2-1 with 5 saves, but giving up 5 runs in 11 innings. The home run leader on this squad is Lee May. He does have 7 homer and 20 RBI to pace the squad. If you're wondering about Johnny Bench, that magnificent 1970 card is no longer in use. And now he's got just 5 homer and 16 RBI, hitting just .260. So it's a slump for Bench. Will certainly skew the results for the Reds from that dangerous team a year ago. Pete Rose has 33 hits, 33 for 111. That's okay. It's hitting .300. Of course, no home runs. And, yeah. And your Cubs, on the other hand, Freddie Jenkins 3-5 with 6 complete games. ERA just around 4. They are hitting .277 with a .444 ERA. Jim Hickman does lead the Cubs in home runs with 7 and RBIs with 21. He's 26 for 75. It's amazing how he's 26 for 75 on this club, as if he doesn't play every day. I think early on in the season, he was in a platoon in right field with Johnny Briggs. Then they decided just to make him an everyday player, and that's when he caught fire. So Hickman, this might be the reason why the Cubs started slowly. He was not in their everyday lineup. He was a platoon player. As you see, the everyday Cubs players have 100 at-bats. Beckert, Santo, Billy Williams, Kessinger, Madlock. 7 homers, 21 RBIs. The leading hitter on this team, Billy Williams, is 36 for 103. Beckert's got 37 hits. Both teams 13 and 14. Game 5 will also be in Chicago. We'll play that game and possibly a Game 6 and 7 to Cincinnati if the Reds do rally. The Game 5 pitcher will be Don Gullett on short rest for the Reds. They need him. They desperately need him. And the Cubs will counter also with Fergie Jenkins on short rest. Fergie pitched magnificently last time. He gets to pitch in front of his home fans in Wrigley in a Game 5. Russell and Hooton would go back to Cincinnati. 414 games have been played in our league, and we are now hitting .260 with a 3.69 ERA. The ERA was 3.29 earlier this year, but the bats have wakened up in the summer months. And one quick look at the standings again in this great division, the North. Look at this. 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5 back. You know, the team who finishes in second place might fade all the way to last place by the time the postseason tournament's over and be eliminated. So, great baseball from the National League North. We'll give you the results at the end of the series. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you soon. Well, baseball fans, here's the box score of the game you just saw. The Reds winning 7-1 in a Game 4. So, final chance in Wrigley Field for the Cubs to knock the Reds out after blowing this chance. And it's going to be a good pitching matchup. It's going to be Don Gullett and Fergie Jenkins. Jenkins was masterful his last time out. Let's see what happened in Game 5. Game 5. Gullett, bottom of the first inning, immediately runs into trouble. Walks Kessinger, a single by Beckert, RBI single Billy Williams. Jim Hickman, he's back in the news after a disappointing Game 4. RBI double, a walk, and then a 2-out, actually a 1-out, 2-run single by Ron Santo. They knock Gullett around in the first inning to the tune of 4 runs. Don't completely knock him out of the game. Third inning, though, guess who? You better believe it. Jim Hickman, solo homer, 5-0. You're thinking, this is it. This really is it for the Cubs. They're going to knock him out. But in the 5th, you get a Concepcion double, a walk to Jim Stewart. Rose walks to load the bases. And Tommy Helms, big moment, down 5-zip, seeing the Reds season spiral away here. 2-run single. Makes it 5-2. Then you get a ground ball to Kessinger. You think the inning's over, but he boots it. An error, and it's a 5-3 game. But what do the Cubs do after blowing the 5-0 lead? They respond. They add more. They need more runs, and they get them. Beckert doubles, Billy Williams doubles, Hickman walks, and a 2-run single by Del Unser off of a thoroughly disappointing Don Gullett. Reds come back in the 6th, a solo homer Johnny Bench, a ground out RBI. It's an 8-5 game. The Reds come back, just pitters out. That's all they could muster is those 5 runs. Insurance run in the 8th, RBI double by Jim Hickman. What an incredible series this has been for that guy. Jim Hickman, RBI double there. It is a 9-5 final, and your Chicago Cubs. Fergie, little rusty in the middle innings. His final line, 8 innings, 9 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Good enough with this Cub offense revitalized. Good enough as the Chicago Cubs have put themselves in a very intriguing situation. Here is your standings going into the All-Star break. Going out of the All-Star break, the first and second place teams will play up to 7 games to determine the division leader, and the bottom 2 teams will be playing to avoid last place. This sets up a situation where the Reds and Pirates, one of these teams is going to be knocked out before the playoffs begin in the first part of the postseason tournament. The only way they can both limp along is if the Cardinals were to whip the Cubs 4 straight or 4 games to 1, and the team with the worst record is automatically out after the first round of the tournament. So right now the Cubs got themselves out of trouble. And if you look over here, this seems crazy, this order. But if you look over here, you realize it's too close to call. I still would say that the Reds or Pirates are capable of getting a roll that could take them all the way to a World Series. But they are on the clock immediately. So break up your Chicago Cubs. They do beat the Reds 4 games to 1. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.